Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laughter for All podcast. This is comedian Nazareth, and thank you so much for joining us again. This is episode number 76, and also speaking of the number 76, thank you guys for making this podcast number 56 on iTunes on comedy podcast. So really, it's out of thousands and hundreds of thousands. We made it to number 56. So thank you guys for listening, for watching, for doing this. I want to encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, wherever you're watching on any podcast and Spotify, whatever. Just join us on there. And what do you call it? You can let your friends know about it. If you see it on Facebook, you can share it. Just, you know what, if you're enjoying it and you let us know that you're enjoying it because we're number 56, therefore let your friends know so they can enjoy it. You want your friends to enjoy stuff like that. There's things you don't tell your friends about. You don't want to tell people about, which is fine with us. But things like that you're really enjoying, at least let your friends know. At least they can owe you a favor someday. But anyway, again, you got used guys to having comedians and having people that really are influential and will make a difference. And last week we had Lee Strobel, we had Josh McDowell, and then before we had Tim Hawkins and Shonda Pierce and Mark Lowry. Today I have a friend who can combine both. He's an amazing motivational speaker, but he's a comedian. He's a professional comedian, so he's professional both. And Derrick is very encouraging. His story is inspiring, and I want you to. But before I welcome him, I have to do it officially. I have to read officially. So I'm going to read his introduction. International known comedian, speaker, and closet magician. I didn't know that. Derrick Tennant travels the world sharing the story of how he overcame overwhelming obstacles to become the leader he is today. Derrick made the most of a tragedy in his life by creating an opportunity for a career. We'll hear about it. As a promising athlete, Derrick was progressing in his dream for a career in sports when one evening he laid down but did not wake up for 3 days. He had undergone what doctors would later term random bleeding from point X for an unknown reason. Paralyzed and in a coma, Derrick underwent brain surgery for which he became unable to move his left side. It would take years of therapy to learn the basics like walking, talking, and simple daily tasks. Derrick is still unable to use his left arm and he walks with a limp, but he has learned a lot through this process. Derrick credits one thing to his ability to make it through this process, not only alive, but also learning and growing is love. Receiving love from his family, his friends, and his God, combined with learning to better demonstrate love in the midst of difficulty, were essential to Derrick's survival and vitality. After his brain surgery, years of rehab, and life in a wheelchair, he ultimately got on his feet again. Despite the very limited use of his left side, Derrick loves life and looks on the right side of things. And he does corporations like Subway, Aflac, Chick-fil-A, Southern Company. He's a great motivational, but again, he's a wonderful free comedian and a friend of mine. Thank you so much, Derrick, for taking the time.
That's a heck of an intro, man. It's only an hour-long show, right?
Yes, I think we have 2 minutes left. But where are you at? Where are you at in the world right now?
Right now, I'm in Tampa, Florida.
You're in Tampa, Florida. No, yeah, I let the people know why. What is this shirt that says Tuesday? Are you just?
Well, I only own 7 shirts. See, everything I own in my life fits into a carry-on bag, and I don't have a house. I don't have an apartment. I just travel, wherever I decide to go, and I keep my motto is live simply, love wastefully, and that's what I try to do. So
now, do you say you don't have a home and you live? What kind of vehicle do you have? Do you have like an RV? Or?
No, gosh, no. I have a little red sports car, 2-seater. I keep that simple too.
So where do you sleep sometimes?
Wherever I want, man. On the beach, wherever. I'm currently in Tampa with one of my best friends. He just built a big house down here, and I was going to store my car down here for the winter. And when I was bringing it down from New York, where I was, he was like, "Dude, why don't you just store yourself here?" And I'm like, "All right." So I've stayed here for the winter. I'm hanging out.
That's right, because COVID, it's hard to do shows during
That's
COVID.
The thing. I haven't. It used to be, you know how it is. I would travel from one show, go to the next show, and the hotels were paid for, and so it was easy to just kind of float around and do whatever.
Right.
But yeah, now the shows are limited, so or they're online like this, so.
So what do you have in your suitcase? What do you have?
Well, 7 shirts, people I get I get a lot of questions. People ask me, they think my underwear says this too, but that's ridiculous. My underwear says October, November, December. So I only have 12 of those. No, I keep I have 1 pair of jeans, that's
1 pair, that's it.
Yeah, that gets a little awkward at the laundromat, actually.
I know. When you're wearing October and
underwear. That's right. Yeah. Especially when it's March.
Yeah, and it's cold. Oh yeah, you forgot. Hey,
that's right.
Time flies when you're having underwear.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have 1 pair of jeans. You have a jacket, I'm sure.
No, I don't have a jacket. No jacket.
So how do you go to New York?
Well, people there have jackets and I just borrow. People ask me, they say, what do you do when you go somewhere cold? I'm like, why would I go anywhere cold?
That's right. Anywhere. So you just adjust your tour depending on where you're at. Let's say you're in Florida and it's December and you get a call from, NASDAQ, say, hey, we want you to do a show. We're paying you 20 grand. Mm-hmm. Are you going to buy a jacket?
Like, you mean a suit jacket, or you mean like a coat to wear because it's cold?
Either one. I mean, they want you to wear a suit.
Here's what I do. I rent clothes. I buy it and then I donate it when I leave that town because I don't have any space for it, right? So like if I have to do a black tie event or something like that, then I buy a nice suit. Maybe spend $300 on a suit. But think about it, I'm not paying rent. Right. So that works into the budget of being Derrick. Right. And then when I leave that town, I donate whatever I bought. And so there's a lot of really well-dressed homeless people around the country.
That's amazing, man. So you don't, but don't they, like when you rent a tuxedo, they have to come back next week and they have to measure you, or you just buy?
Oh yeah, I don't get a tuxedo. I mean, I just get a suit or whatever. I mean, if and that's the other thing. If I'm in a wedding, it's up to the bride. Sometimes they don't care. Sometimes I just buy a suit coat and put it over my Saturday shirt. It depends on what you gotta ask the wife, And then,
why is that? What prompted you to do that?
Well, the last place I was living was Nashville, right? I think you're in Nashville, right?
No, I'm in LA, but I'm going to be in Nashville tomorrow night.
Oh, well, that's what I meant, tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wednesday in the other shirt.
Yeah, that's right. I was living in Nashville. I'm spending whatever, $1,000 a month on rent. And I looked at my calendar, and I'm there like 3 days a month, or 2 days, or because doing all the shows, and then I like to travel for fun too. Before COVID, I would spend about 10 weeks a year in the Bahamas or somewhere tropical because I like it. So I was like, why do I have rent? I don't really need this. So my first thought was to get a van, like you said, an RV or something. And then I'm like, yeah, but that's got a toilet you got to fix, and it's got all this stuff, and I don't want to keep up with that. So I kept in my mind getting it down to something smaller and smaller, and I was like, a carry-on bag I can do because I can fly anywhere and I don't have to pack and unpack. And I live wherever I am. That's where I live. So there's no and then the shirt thing, I was just thinking about what I'm going to bring, and I own a little apparel company. So I made the shirts, and I just think it's funny. And it allows for a lot of jokes. And also, this marketing is so important when it comes to what we do, right?
Right.
And there's a million comedians. There's a million motivational speakers, right? There's a million guys that have a disability. I'm the guy with 7 shirts. There's only one in the whole world, right? It's hard to create something that there's only one, right? So people remember me. They may not remember what I said or my name or anything. They'll remember there was a guy with 7 shirts.
You know what? I have to clarify this to the people watching and listening. You're not a serial killer. You're not a fugitive. You're not running from because the only other people I know that do that they have no address and they just keep going.
Yeah. How many serial killers do you know, man?
They never tell me. They don't say anything.
True, yeah.
But that's funny. Now, you were born where? In Atlanta or Nashville?
No, Syracuse, New York is where I grew up.
Syracuse, New York. And you had how many siblings?
I have a brother that's a year older than me, a sister that's a year younger than me. They're both married and have kids. And then I have a sister that's 4 years younger than me, and that's Julie, who I'm sure we'll talk about when
Yes,
we
oh,
get to
yes,
that.
we have to mention Julie.
Yeah.
She's amazing too. So your parents were in Syracuse, and then they, you had a normal life. You went into sports. What was your sport? What were you
Favorite
advancing in?
sport is football, but I played all of
Football.
them, Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then
After I got
from
hurt, I played basketball because you can't play football with one hand. I can't use my left arm. So I
so
played, I don't know if you know that, I played basketball in the Philippines and I played in Mexico like this with one arm and, white short and handicap, man. I played.
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's part of my story, man.
Okay, tell us. This is encouraging because a lot of people like complaining nowadays. I have sinuses, So everything you're physically were normal. Everything is not. I don't mean
Yeah.
the word
Everything
normal.
was,
Physically
no, I know
healthy.
what you mean. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
wasn't born, paralyzed. It's just that I took that first COVID shot and,
Thanks a lot. Okay.
man, I'm afraid of the next one, man. I only got one arm left.
That's funny. That is funny. Boom, you got.
Sorry. Yeah.
No. That's fine. So you were playing, sports in school, in college. When did
I
you
was
have
young.
that?
I was 14. It was 19. Never mind. When no, I'm 50. I
And
just turned 50, so I can tell you it was
oh,
1985. And yeah, I had a headache. I was the next day was football practice for high school, starting my freshman year. I was gonna be the quarterback and the point guard, that guy, and I
but
just had
no
a headache.
concussion. You didn't have a
No,
concussion
no,
before the
this
headache.
football hadn't even started yet, right? And it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was watching football tapes with my brother, and I just had a headache, and I didn't fall down or anything. I just kind of laid down on the floor, and he's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'm just tired. I got a headache. I'm gonna go to bed." But I wasn't getting up. I didn't say I can't get up, and I didn't know I couldn't get up, but I was just laying on the floor, and I guess my voice sort of changed, and it was clear something was wrong. And my parents came down, and they were asking me what was wrong, and I remember being like irritated. I'm like, "Nothing's wrong." I'm like, "I just got a headache. I'm gonna go to bed," but I wasn't getting up, so clearly things were happening
Wow.
already. And my mom's like, I used to race around on my bikes and stuff. They're like, "Did you crash?" I'm like, "No, I won," and then they're like, "Did anybody give you a candy bar?" I'm like, "No, I didn't get in any vans or anything." It's just, and they put me in the car to take me to the hospital because it was clear something was wrong in my eyes and whatever. And the last thing I remember is in the car, it was a station wagon, so I slid in the back seat down onto the floor, and my mom was reaching over to help me get up on the thing. And I remember looking at her hand, and I wasn't grabbing her hand, and it just confused me. I don't remember thinking I can't grab her hand, but I remember thinking, why am I not grabbing her hand? And then she started to cry, and then everything went black, and that was the last thing that I remembered. And I went into a coma then.
For 3 days.
Yeah, I was in the hospital, and they had brain surgery, which the surgery, as far as I think in layman's term, the surgery saved my life, right? There was bleeding in the center of my brain and swelling. So they had to go in there and stop that. And in order to do that, it damaged part of my brain that talks to my left side, in other words, right? That's why I can't use the left side of my body, because the right side of the brain is damaged, right?
Mm.
But you read it in the thing, the actual neurologist says random bleeding from point X for an unknown reason. Is this guy even a doctor? That doesn't.
Yeah, it's like, you sure? Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that clears
Isn't that
everything,
great?
doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And look at, I don't know if you can see my scar, but it's in the
Uh,
shape of a question mark. How funny is that? They gave me a permanent question mark right there. Like,
this guy is cool. Yeah,
the doctor
wow.
wrote.
So when you woke up and you noticed you couldn't move your left hand, what went through your head?
Well, it was crazy when I first, came out of it or whatever. I could hear, but my face was swollen shut from the surgery, so I couldn't see, and I couldn't talk, and I couldn't move. So nobody knew that I could hear, right? Because I couldn't do anything, and I could hear people talking. Man, I wonder what's going to happen, And all I'm thinking is, I'm the quarterback. Like I got to get to practice. Like I didn't know really at the point what was going on. And there's a great lesson in communication, because the first thing I was able to do is I started moving my hand a little bit, right? And everyone's like, he's moving his, that kind of thing, like in the movies.
Yeah.
And, on TV or, the movies, they do that. And it's like, they're like, knock once for yes or two for no, right? And then they start communicating. Oh, it doesn't work like that, man. I still have, I wish I had it. I don't have it here, but it's at my folks' house in New York, the paper, because they had me write answers down because I could move my hand. But picture it, I'm laying in the bed, right? I'm laying in the bed and I can't see, and they put a pen in my hand. So I'm writing on a paper that I can't see. And I have like 9 tubes in my neck and my heart and everything to just keep me alive. So I'm starting to communicate. So they asked me a question, and I still have this, and I wrote yes, right? Like, just with a pen, but it looks like a 2-year-old, right? But you can tell that it says yes. But it also took a lot of effort to do anything, like just to move, right? And then they asked me another question, and the answer was yes. So it was easier to just circle the yes instead of write it again, right? Because it was just a lot of effort. So I circled the yes in my mind. That's what I did, but I can't see the paper. And it's like the yes that I wrote is here. And then there's like a circle way over here. And they asked me again, and I just circled it again. So I just kept drawing circles. And in my mind, I was circling the yes, right? And then, so my mom goes, oh, and they're talking with the doctors. Like, circle means yes, and I write down no. And then my dad goes, oh, circle means no. And I just threw the pen. I'm like, we're done.
We're done. Why?
I'll wait till I can open my eyes.
Just have me, Yeah, do
the tapping thing or something. It didn't work.
Before that accident, what was your goals? To be in sports? Comedy was not in you. Was not.
No, I mean, I always enjoyed. Even I became a comedian by accident. It just sort of happened, right? So I never really had a goal to become a comedian. But I liked speaking or, communicating or teaching, even when I was 14. It's kind of funny. Like sports was definitely where I would have saw myself going. If you would ask me, what are you going to do when you grow up or whatever, I had an ability. I mean, I played basketball with one arm and one leg, so you can imagine how good I was.
How is that? I don't get it. Like did you play? You were just having fun with guys, or was it professional?
No. It was a team.
It was a team.
Yeah, and we traveled.
You must have been doubled.
I had to try twice as hard. You're right.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, it was crazy. But before, when I played, sports was great, and I just had an ability, and I was blessed, and I would thank God every day for it. But it's funny because I like comedy. I went to a comedy show, I think when I was 18 was the first time I ever even I knew what stand-up comedy was, but I didn't think about doing it. But this is funny actually, before my brain hemorrhage, I was asked to speak to a youth group or something, right? And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And, but I didn't know what to talk about because did you grow up going to church? I don't remember if you grew up going to church.
No, I was 28 when it came to Christ.
But you do youth events. You know how youth events.
Oh, yeah.
A guy that's I was in a gang and I did this and then Jesus came in my life. So I'm thinking, how do I speak to these kids? I was never in a gang. I never killed anybody, whatever. So this is the first ever talk that I ever wrote. The title of it was, "You Don't Need a Tragedy to Have a Testimony." Isn't that awesome? Like this mouth, I gave that talk, and now I'm the tragedy guy. Isn't that crazy?
No, that was before you had your tragedy.
Yeah, that's what before I had my brain injury, I wrote a talk called "You Don't Need a Tragedy to Have a Testimony." In other words, everybody has a testimony, right?
Yeah.
And now the same person, me with the same mouth, I am the tragedy. So it just shows that God can use every single situation.
Did you ask God for a testimony? Maybe that's what.
No, I didn't want a tragedy. He's like, I'll give you a tragedy.
I'll give you a testimony if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
no, thank you. Yeah.
This is interesting. First time I met you at the CCA, how some people, for example, if someone is very short or very overweight, they compensate with big personality. You had a great personality. I can, without even knowing, I said, even maybe before you had the accident or injury, you've had that same, what do you call it, competitive personality. Is that
Yeah.
true?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I was always, I mean, I literally would go to bed at night before this happened, and I'd be like, God, I got nothing to ask you for. Thank you for, I have a great family. I did well in school. I was popular, all the things that are important when you're 14. And I just loved my life, and I loved my God. And, I was happy, and I loved making other people happy. I mean, when I was a little kid, my mom said I used to go up and try to help old ladies and stuff. So it's just something that was in me. And I'm not saying that to brag. I mean, if you can learn
Yeah.
anything from that, if you want to be happy, man, just go love people. Like I call it selfish generosity, because you get so much more out of it, right? And
That is awesome. Now, when you had that, were you mad at God? Why me, God?
never. I can
Never.
honest hand to God, I can say I never got mad with God. I can definitely say I don't understand. I still don't understand why. Like, I don't think God was making Derrick and then he was like, oops, oh crap, now you're going to be paralyzed. Like, I don't think he made a mistake, right?
No,
Like
no.
somehow this makes sense to God, right? So if we genuinely believe that he's God, then it wasn't logical to me to be angry, right? Because that would be like he screwed up or he did something. I definitely would say it confused me and still does. I don't know why I don't know why he allows cancer or abortion or I don't know. But the way I say it is, if God was small enough to be understood, he wouldn't be big enough to be worshipped, right? Our job isn't to understand God; it's to trust that He's flawless. And if and I'm able to articulate this now, but when I was 14, I can promise you, I didn't get mad at God. I got mad that I wasn't the quarterback, and I got mad that I couldn't do anything. I mean, I was literally in a wheelchair, drooling on myself, and I had to learn how to do everything, talk, everything, all over. Right. So there was times my parents bought me a punching bag because I just tried to take out my aggression on something, and I would bloody my
Mm,
knuckle, my one good knuckles, because I was just frustrated. And I can promise you, I was not mad at God. That didn't make sense to me. Like, I
right.
knew he loved me. I didn't understand why he would allow this, but I'm not mad at him like that. Like, and probably there was probably some part of me too that was like, I would feel like I was doing something wrong if I was mad at God. That probably was it too. But now I can say, like, that's just not logical to me to be mad at. I don't think it's wrong for anybody who is mad at God. I don't think that's wrong. I think any energy and communication with God is great. And if that's like, I'm so mad at you, then I think he's like, just gives you a hug. So it's not a statement of this is how you should be. It's just the way it manifested with me is I didn't get mad at God, but I did get frustrated with not being able to do things right. And then because I was the kid that was the most popular kid. It was the 80s, so I had long hair, all that, played the drums in the rock band and all that kind of stuff. And I was going to school across town for my freshman year, so I was going to quarterback, and so I couldn't wait to get there. Right, new girls, new opportunities. It's going to be awesome, right?
Right.
And then when I get there, I'm 11 weeks late to school. Like, school's halfway into the year, and I'm shaved head with a big scar. I'm scrawny because I hadn't done anything. I can't even sit up, and I'm drooling, and I'm the kid in the wheelchair. So I hated it. I hated going to school. I couldn't wait to get there. But then when I got there, oh, I hated it, at first, and my life verse comes from that because I had read it before, but after that time, Paul saying, I've had everything and I've had nothing, but I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. And Paul had experiences way worse than anything you or I will ever experience. And I read that afterwards. I'm like, wait a minute, I have everything and I have nothing. I'm like, as a teenager, I did, I had everything that you could have, and then I had nothing from an American teenager standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the Bible, which I believe is truth, says there's a secret to contentment in any situation, and Paul wrote that when he was in prison for doing nothing wrong. So that's when I was like, okay, I want that secret, I want that.
I know. I mean, even with contentment, talking about 7 shirts and no,
Yeah, right. It
only one
fits.
carry. You know what's in my carry-on bag? I have my phone charger, my earpod charger, my iPad charger, my computer charger. That's just the charger.
Just the chargers.
I didn't put clothes yet. So you don't have,
well,
you're like.
Well, I do have a backpack too. I have a carry-on bag and I have a backpack for that stuff, for my laptop and my charger and that kind of thing.
Let me ask you this question. When I was from age 15 to age, I think 19 and 20, I had arthritis. So I had a hip joint that was swollen. So I would limp going to school and I would limp walking. And I've always felt embarrassed. Sometimes I attempted everything, regardless of the pain, to kind of look at least normal. Is this something you went through?
Yeah, it's, it was a progression, because when I got there, especially teenage high school, right? Literally I, shaved head, and I was really skinny, and I, lean over, and I was in a wheelchair, right? So someone had to push me around. I gradually was able to walk, and I was supposed to use a cane, but I'm like, I'm not using a cane. Like, that's not me, or whatever. So I think there's an element of even teenagers and kids, they saw me getting better, right? So it was a little less likely, I think. I mean, but when I was able to walk, I didn't walk very well. And I, had a big limp, and my left arm would kind of get tense and just like go like this, because the muscles just do their own thing, right? And I would be like, literally, there's times when I'd walk in a crowded hallway and like my left hand would like grab a girl's purse or something, because I just, and she's like turning like, what are you doing?
Blame it on the disease.
Right. Yeah.
Blame it on the sickness.
Right. And then they realize it's me, but that initial, so there was some element of embarrassment, but, I more remember, just trying to get better, right? Keep progressing.
How much physical therapy? Or let me ask you a better question. How much stretching do you have to do and exercise to
now or back then?
Now and back then.
Now I'm always like, when I'm sitting down or something, I'm always just like stretching my hand, mainly because if you've seen people that are paralyzed, your body's natural tendency is this: it curls up, right? All your muscles flex. That's the natural pattern. And I don't want that to happen. So I just stretch just to keep it, loose or whatever, and so that, and then, I walk with a limp, the word is paralyzed, it's like you could draw a line right down the middle of my body. I can't feel this over here. But it's not like my whole body's not numb and nothing on the left side. Like I can move my shoulder a little bit, like that, and it doesn't do anything. But that's how I walk. I just lift my hip and my foot falls wherever it falls, right? So it's and there's funny things, like the things that are innate, like blinking. Like when I blink, both of my eyes blink, right?
Right.
Because you don't have to think every time you blink, right? Your body just does it naturally. So those things are normal, right? But for example, I can't wink with this eye, like, because that's something you do on purpose, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
So I can do that, but I can't.
Of sense.
So the natural things that happen, like in other words, my lungs and things that it's the ones that take intention that don't work for me. So whatever that is, it's bizarre. They don't know what happened to me, so there's not another situation like it, right?
But there's people like you, they had the same issue, but they weren't as tenacious in their exercising and stretching and working to get the normal.
And there's probably people that were more than me too. There's always, but it's similar. If someone has a stroke, the end result is very similar to me, right? Because a stroke is like a clot. Mine wasn't a clot, it wasn't a stroke, but the results are similar, right, to a stroke or like a major head trauma or something like that. The end result is similar to that.
Yeah. Now, you went on stage first time as a comedian when?
Oh my gosh, 2007. I did, because I had been doing some speaking, right? Motivational speaking and public speaking, not to the professional level, but, I was getting paid, but, it wasn't my full-time gig, and I loved it. And, and obviously used humor all the way through it, but never even thought, really, I didn't consider being a stand-up comic, and then my buddies would be like, dude, you got to do comedy. I'm like, no, man, and my thought, I'll tell you, my actual thought was, you speak too. So, if you're speaking for an hour or you're preaching and you do two funny things, people are like, that guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because they're not expecting to laugh.
Takes.
But if you go to a comedy show for an hour, you got to do 200 funny things. So I was just scared. I'm like, I'm not going to do comedy. I'm like, where would I get the material? I don't have any idea, and that's right. So my friends convinced me to take a class, right? In Atlanta, I took a comedy class at the old Punchline, which is, I wish was still there. It's a, it's a different club now. It was like, whatever it was, like 8 classes, and I was cocky, and I went to like 6 of them. I'm like, I can do this, whatever. And you write a 5-minute bit or a 4-minute bit, right? It's kind of a funny story. So when we came to the graduation, it's a packed house, right? But it's the best audience you'll ever have because they know these guys aren't comedians, right? And it's your friends and it's friends of the other people and their accountants and whatever. So it was, to this day, it's the best audience I ever had, right? So, and you think that it's always like that, right? Because you're an idiot, you're not economic. So I get up, I go up, and the teacher, is a comic, right? That taught it. And at the time he had an accident and his left arm was in a cast from like the shoulder all the way down to the wrist from an injury, but he's still doing the thing. He put me up last because I was a speaker already. So I was more comfortable on stage, right? So 13.
You were the best student he had. That's
yeah, something like that, But the others go up, and I'm getting ready to go up, and I'm telling you, my left arm was shaking like this. I was so nervous, and I say to him, I said, "How much time do we get?" He goes, 4.5 minutes or whatever it was. And this is in the green room, right? I start walking out, and he grabs my shirt and pulls on it, and I turn around. He goes, "If they're laughing, I'm not taking you off the stage." And I go, "Yeah, you shouldn't have said that, man." So I go out on stage, and it was one of those times, man, that I know now that everything was clicking, right? Naz, like the guy in the front had a funny hat, that lady had a silly laugh, and I had been on stage enough to be able to ad lib, right? And other people hadn't, so it made it look, it was just going great. And the thing that was funny, the best part of the show was when somebody forgot their lines, then the teacher would come out and give them their notes. And it made everybody love it because it showed them that they were real people, right? So I had an idea because it was going so well. I go into the audience, I go, "Watch this," and I go, "Oh, I forgot my lines," which I didn't, but I just wanted to get the guy to come out. So he comes walking out on stage with this big cast on his left arm. And I go, "I don't need you, man." I go, "Listen, friends," I go, "You're good when the teacher is breaking his arm just so he can be like you."
That's funny.
And that was the first time I ever did comedy. So I thought comedy was easy, right? Because the crowd was great. And, I'm like, this is going to be great. Then I did an open mic, and you know how that goes.
Now, how often do you write comedy?
Man, I write pretty much on stage. So I haven't been writing a lot lately. I don't sit down and write. I wish I had that discipline, but it used to be, I was on stage, 10 times a month or whatever, right? And that's where you try out, you get a new idea, and you try it out on stage, and then you tweak it, and then you down. I have notebooks full of ideas, but I don't develop them. I need to get better at that. I wish I was better at that. But I just write in life or hearing a song, people always ask us, right? How do you get your material, right? And just look around, I was in McDonald's, and the guy in front of me goes, "Yeah, can I get a number 2?" And I was like, "Order anything you want on this menu. You're going to get a number 2, man."
Now, if you have to choose, and you don't have to, between being a speaker and you can't do comedy, or being a comedian, you can't do speaking, what would you go with?
Wow. It's a crazy question, but it probably a speaker, because the opportunity to impact people's lives more, other than just make them smile, but to deliver content that can benefit somebody's life, and it's awesome that we're blessed to be able to do both of those things. We don't have to choose, right?
What is one story in traveling or a gig that something went wrong, embarrassing, funny, crazy, that you remember?
Oh my gosh. How much time do you got?
25 more minutes.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll tell you, this is probably a good time to talk about my sister.
Yes, I wanted to get into
yeah.
your
Well, this is a good
story.
transition because this story is great and it's just what you're talking about. So
Perfect.
my
Okay.
sister is beautiful. She's funny, successful, owns her own business. Everybody knows my sister, right? You know, and everybody, my name is just, oh, that's Julie's brother, you know. But and Julie has Down syndrome, which is an extra chromosome. And my grandfather told her that she doesn't have an extra chromosome, but you and me are missing it. And he called it the love chromosome because they know how to love better than us, right? And if you know
Right.
anybody
They
with Down
do. They
syndrome,
do.
oh my
They
gosh,
do.
yeah, it's their default mechanism. You know, I mean, I've learned from Julie, if you want to be happy, you know, love somebody. If you want to be really happy, love somebody who doesn't expect it. And if you want to be genuinely happy, love somebody who doesn't deserve it. You know, that's what our friends with Down syndrome do. They just love. It doesn't matter who you are or what you said to them or how tall you are. It doesn't matter, right? And we would be a more content people if we did that. So Julie and I do shows together, right? We do a lot of shows together, pre-COVID anyways. And she's hilarious. She's funnier than me. You know, we do a lot of motivational events. But one of the things we talk about is she'll say, I have Down syndrome, Derrick's paralyzed, but we love our life. You know, it's kind of like, what's your deal? You know? And we'll also talk about our family, and she'll say, my brother and my sister, they both are married and have kids, but Derrick and I are both single and we love our life. You know, it's that kind of thing. Like the message is always, you can love your life. And we're on TV in St. Louis, right? You know, and they just, after we just finished a big show, and the TV channel was like, hey, can you guys tell us your story? We love the show, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. They hand me the microphone. And I hand it to Julie because I want to empower her, right? You know, I'm like, actually, Julie can tell you our story. You know, I just wanted to show that she can do it. So this is on live TV, man. And I give Julie the microphone. We're standing there. And I go, Julie, tell them our story. What makes us different? She goes, okay. And she's as confident as can be, right? She looks right at the camera with the microphone. She goes, well, we're both handicapped. I have Down syndrome and he's single.
That is hilarious.
She got our two messages crossed, right? Like, and the cameraman like drops the camera, you know, and I start crying. I was laughing so hard. And she realized, you know, that she said it wrong, you know, and she goes, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, I'm like, Julie, I've never written anything funnier than that. Like, I'm going to use that the rest of my life. You know, it was great, you know, but it was.
Would you get married if the right woman came along?
Man, I don't know. I mean, yeah, of course I would. You know, it's actually I'm in a good place. You know, I mean, I just turned 50, so the likelihood is lower. But you know, I'm not afraid of marriage, but I'm also this is where I am in my life that a lot of people aren't. I think I'm not disappointed if it doesn't happen. You know, my goal isn't marriage. I'm 100% single heterosexual dude. Okay. So I like women. I like dating. I like, you know, whatever, you know, so I'm not repelled by any of that. I'm not, you know, gay. I'm not, you know, whatever. But here's my goal. My goal is the verse we talked about earlier, you know, secret to contentment. I want to have contentment. I want to have joy. The secret is love. And I have it, right? Like I have contentment in my life. I love my life. I'm so blessed, right? So that's my goal. Check this out. It doesn't change if I'm married. My goal is still going to be contentment. It doesn't change if I'm 85 and single. My goal is still going to be contentment. So how great is that? I have my goal. And yeah, I might get married. I mean, I could, if I met a girl 3 days from now and it was, you know, the one or whatever, then I'd just get married. I'd take her to Vegas, you know, whatever, you know, like I'm not afraid of it. And I would love to be a dad. That would be awesome. But I'm not sad if it doesn't happen because I live today. You know, I try to listen to God and what he would want me to do and try to make wise decisions and just make the next right choice, you know, whatever. And that might be marriage. Who knows? But it's not a goal, right? You know what I mean? It's not, because then it would be like, oh, and also that puts a lot of pressure on a woman, right? If that's going to make me happy and then it doesn't, then, you know, so all that stuff. So I say I'm very happily single. That's how I describe it.
You remember when I travel with my family, we have 6 large pieces of luggage. just to go for a week vacation. So
Right, I
keep
know.
that in
Yeah.
mind. Yeah, you're not going to meet a
Exactly.
woman who only have 7 shirts and
Yeah,
4
yeah,
bras and 5
yeah.
underwear. You know.
Will you marry me? You get one bag.
So tell me about your mother who had a daughter with Down syndrome, a son who had this accident, and where was she? What did she have to deal with?
My mom's amazing. So is my dad. I mean, my parents have been married 53 years. They're still in love. They're awesome. My mom had a rough childhood herself, with a lot of situations. Her and my dad, they're like junior high school sweethearts, right? Like they never dated anyone else
Oh.
pretty much. And so it's cool. So that's my image of marriage. It's probably also a contributing factor as to why I'm single. I've got pretty high standards, right? You know, but my mom is, she's just full of wisdom. I mean, full of wisdom. God, you know, she wasn't saved until after they were married, and just God has blessed her with wisdom, you know, and it didn't come from her upbringing because she had a rough upbringing and everything. But yeah, she's an amazing woman. You know, and my dad too. I mean, I talk to my parents just about every day, you know, and
that's wonderful. Tell me about your sister. She has a business where she makes T-shirts and other stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Julie.
Julie, she had a job and the place went out of business, you know, 15 years ago or something. And it was hard for someone with Down syndrome to find a good job because it's about the people that she works with. Right. And she couldn't find one. And I told her, you know, we were just kind of doing things and she was drawing pictures. And I said, draw, you know, what you think about because we'd already done some speaking, right? The Love Chromosome was like our business name. And she drew a picture of me and her, like 2 stick figures, like just playing catch with a ball. And underneath it just said, I love my life. I'm like, that's awesome. We should make that into a shirt, right? You know, so I made it into a shirt and then we would sell it after our shows. And then people would, you know, it's funny, like there'd be a line to buy the shirts and then a line to get Julie to sign it, right? And she would sign the shirts. There's no line for Derrick to sign anything. And so then we designed another shirt. She loves to say, cool, man. So she made a shirt with a stick figure and it just says, cool, man. That was her second shirt. And she said, can I put my name on the shirt? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, in the design of the shirt, she wanted her autograph. I'm like, why? She's like, then I won't get a hand cramp trying to sign the shirt.
That's right.
She's so smart. I'm like, yeah, I never had to put my name on a shirt, you know? So after that, I was like, you know, we could make this it was just it was merch, right? You know, shirts to sell.
Yeah.
And just, you know, I'm an entrepreneurial guy. I've started and run a lot of different things. I just like that. So just had the idea to make this into an actual company with her shirts, right? And then she did it. She had another shirt that says, I'd rather be slow to learn than slow to love.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome? You know, we've got a line called Love Wastefully. We've got one it just says just love, you know. And so I you know, built a website for it, and now it's juliescoolshirts.com is the website. Coolshirts.com. Yeah, go there right now and buy a bunch of stuff.
Yes, you need to support it. Now, I always ask my guests this question: what do you know more than anyone else?
What do I know?
What is one thing you know? You know how you meet people and somebody knows a lot about accounting, someone knows about this, someone knows about comedy, what do you know? What do you feel you know more? Like if you talk, you know, you don't need to be the expert in this, but what do you know more than? I like to ask people that when I'm traveling, like, hey, what do you know more? And then let's talk about that.
I think I know more or am in touch more with the fact that everybody in the world has direct, free access to joy in their life. Everybody has it and has an ability to manifest that, you know, and clearly from a Jesus perspective, I'm saying that, but even from somebody who's not a believer, I would suggest still has direct access to not the joy that you and I know and the true source of joy, but contentment and what would be happiness, right? You know, and the irony is that it comes from giving, not getting, right? You know, it's what I talked about before. You want to be happy, love somebody, right? And that, I mean, I'm living that, you know, I mean, I try to live that, I should say, you know, I mean, I don't really know what stress is. I mean, I go through life with one arm, but that's just the cards I was dealt,
That's
Oh, yeah, I
good.
forgot to tell you too. You were asking me about the single thing. I don't have a wife, but I do have a better half. So it's a joke. I wanted to squeeze that one in somewhere. That was a horrible
that,
transition, but I just wanted to try it out.
that is funny. How do you deal with people who feel sorry for you? What are you doing?
I don't know that happens. I mean,
Good.
yeah, because you know how it is being on stage. It's people are reluctant to feel sorry for you, and
Yeah.
because I have genuine joy and contentment because of God and my connection to Him in my soul and my core. So I'm not sad, right? And I'm not like, oh, poor me, handicap. I mean, it's just I forget that I have a disability. You know what I mean?
Praise God.
Sometimes I feel left out.
But
You missed it,
left
man.
out. I got it.
But I'm all right. Get it?
You're all right, but left out. Okay. Now, what have you been doing during the whole quarantine where there's no
Yeah,
show?
man. I miss traveling, number one, so much. Because I mean, I live in a state of travel normally. So I went up and hung out. The good thing was I got to spend a lot of time with my family in New York. I went up there and hung out with them and worked on Julie's cool shirts. That's where we were able to make it into like an official company, right? So that
Oh,
was a benefit of COVID, is that we got to spend that. And Julie and I did a live Facebook March 21st last year, which is World Down Syndrome Day. And it was fun. And we're like, let's do it tomorrow. And we've done it every day since then, man. I mean, like that's been a huge benefit of it. Every single day at 3:21 p.m. Eastern, anybody can go on and watch us. We're on 3 YouTube pages and 6 Facebook pages all at the same time. Um,
perfect.
and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just silly fun, love, and whatever. So I would encourage anybody that's listening, if you need a little shot of love in the arm, Julie will make your day. And it can be any day, 7 days a week at 3:21 p.m. Eastern. You can go to my Facebook or whatever and find it. And so I do that. And then of course virtual gigs, which are weird, right? Have you been
Yeah,
doing some of
definitely.
those? Ugh, yeah, it's so weird. It's just you're talking to a screen, but we got to do it, right?
Yeah. Now, have you written any books?
No, I need to, man. That's
You
I
have
I
to.
just I have like 3 books in my head. Like I even have chapters, but I'm lazy. I mean, I'll tell you, the reason I haven't written a book is this right here. One of the chapters in the book that I haven't written is going to be called the B plus mentality. And this is what I have in my life, right? So when I'm in grade school, elementary school, the teachers would come up to me and like, Derrick, if you would apply yourself, you'd get an A. And I would say, no, I wouldn't. And they're like, yeah, you would. And I'm like, no, I'd get an A plus, but I don't care. I'm going to go play basketball. Right. Like
Right.
I would get a B plus in the school or, and that translated into college and into like my career. I'm doing well enough in comedy and speaking and everything, in the last 10, 15 years or whatever, that, I'm making a decent living and I'm having fun. But if I would do the writing, like I said, I want to do, and if I would write a book and if I would get my blog and all that things going, I would be, I'd get an A plus, so to speak. And that's been
That's
my whole life. And I don't regret it because I've had a full life. Like it gives me the opportunity to go volunteer, 10 hours a week or to, because I'm not just focused on my career. But what I'm really, this is a big thing in my life that I'm realizing right now is that it's no longer about getting a B plus, but I'm giving a B plus, right? Because now God's blessed me with an opportunity to connect and love on people and be able to hopefully impact people.
right.
But if I don't put the time into writing better, making a book, getting a blog, then I'm limiting. You see what I'm saying? I'm giving a B plus
Um,
instead of getting a B. So I'm at a point in my life where I'm gonna have to start growing up or something. Now that I'm
but
50.
I'm like you, Derek. I'm like you. Like when I was in school, it was a lot of students. I was a number two, which is hard to get, but I was always number two. There was a guy always
Uh,
ahead, and I could have beat him if I tried harder. And same thing with my comedy. Like, I'm doing well, I'm doing stadiums, I'm doing this, but I go, if I only do a little more, I'm gonna be boom and there. And it's like there's a satisfaction, a comfort in that. It's still a great place to be, and so many people want to be in that place. But I I know there's one more step,
Right.
and I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what nobody ever verbalized it that way, but you did. That's
Yeah. But
amazing.
what I'm realizing is that it's not, it's been about me, like one of my goals is to give away half of my money and half of my time. And I can do that because I don't have a house, I don't have rent, and I don't have a 9-to-5 job, right? But I need to take some of that time and put it into writing a book and doing things that will hopefully impact other people, right? And
Right.
so that's sort of the transition I'm in now. So it's hopefully going to happen. A book
That's
in a
awesome.
year.
So let's see. What let's see. I blanked out, Mr. How do you deal with the rejection? Let's say someone books you for a big gig to speak, and then they cancel it or something. I don't know. Maybe because the way your simple life, a simple way you live, you don't have a lot of overhead, you don't have a lot of bills, so
I don't have a child. I don't have a wife. I don't have, no, I've designed this to where, that kind of thing happens. It's out of my control, right? I mean, unless it was something I did, then it's going to be, but yeah, I mean, that thing, oh, we had the pastor can't do this, or we got to cancel. And they think it's no big deal, right?
Yeah,
so it's frustrating.
Like, oh,
yeah. It's frustrating. And that was the biggest disappointment, because, and it happened, it was funny. They brought in somebody, that had cancer or something that they were helping to do. So I supported what they were doing, but it meant me not getting that. And that was a huge disappointment. But I was just like, I didn't cause this and I can't prevent it. So I'm going to keep loving my life. Right. And I'm going to try to do the next right thing.
Who encourages you?
Who encourages me? Jesus. I mean, think about how simple he made it for us. What kind of animal does he call us?
Lamb, sheep.
And what is the stupidest animal on the planet?
Sheep.
Is sheep, right? They're dumb. They can't do anything without their, he knows that we're simple. And this is what he said. He said, love God, love your neighbor. You're done. I mean, that's in red letters in the Bible. He said, that's what, and that motivates me. That's Jesus said everything hangs on these two things: love God, love your neighbor. That's awesome. I mean, even if you didn't read any more of the Bible, love God, love your neighbor. He made it that simple for us, right? That definitely motivates me and inspires me. My family is a huge encouragement. Julie, oh my gosh, seriously, anybody listen, go watch Julie's show or go on to juliescoolshirts.com. She will make your day. Just watch a video or something. And that motivates me.
In closing, we have 5 minutes left, and I want to ask you. There's people watching and listening. They're like feeling sorry for themselves, maybe because they're a little too skinny or too overweight. They're single, or they're widowed or just something, and they're feeling sorry, and they think their challenge, their problem is huge, and it's the worst situation in the world. I know you've already in the last hour covered so much. Can you just boom bring it home for them?
Yeah, I would say that they feel like that's the biggest problem in the world, and it is, because that's your world. But there's a God that loves you, that's got it figured out, and he can handle it, right? And he's on your team, right? And even separate it from God. I don't want to, because there's people that are probably listening that don't have a connection with God or want a connection with God. you really want to be happy, man. It's going to sound crazy. In the worst time of your life, go volunteer somewhere. Go love on some kids at a hospital, go to a homeless shelter and just give to somebody. You can strip that from God, even though Jesus told us how that works 2,000 years ago. Psychology figures it out too, right? And, and often our biggest obstacle is our biggest opportunity, right? I tell you a quick story. There's a kid that had his left arm amputated, right? Because he couldn't, it was a car accident. So, and he wanted to do sports, and he starts taking judo lessons, but the master teaches him only one move, right? Just one move. And he goes into this competition and wins the whole thing. And he's like, master, how's this possible? And he's like, trust me, wins the whole thing. When he's all done, he's like, how did this? And the master says, I taught you that move for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the most effective move in all of judo. And number 2, the only defense against that move is to grab your opponent's left arm.
He doesn't have one.
See, right? Yeah, there you go.
Right.
So what we think is the worst possible thing, you're in a judo competition and you've got no left arm, it's the only reason the kid won, right? So sometimes in our lives, it's those things that we think are horrible, and they are, like we said, cancer, death, abortion, these things are tragedies. But every obstacle is an opportunity for something. And it doesn't mean you're going to love the obstacle, but be ready to embrace the opportunity. And that's what I try to do anyways.
That's amazing. How can people get a hold of you to speak at their company, at their church, at their event?
Yeah, or just send me an email if you're having one of those down days. I'd love to, do anything I can to help. 14 Sleeves is my website. Get it? 7 shirts, 14 sleeves.
14 sleeves.
But it's just 14sleeves, 14sleeves.com. And that's also my, please follow me and do all the social media stuff and all that's all 14 Sleeves as well. So like Facebook at 14 Sleeves and all that.
Again,
so yeah.
Give us Julie's website again where we can buy the shirts.
JuliesCoolShirts.com.
JuliesCoolShirts.com.
Yep. And JuliesCoolShirts.com. And if you're listening right now and you send me an email, I'll give you a discount code to give you a discount on one of Julie's shirts. How about that? I didn't think about it. I could have given one over the air, but I'd have to go create it.
It's amazing. That's good. Thank you so much, Derrick, for taking the time. And
thank you, man.
You're always 10 days in the Bahamas and you're in Tampa right now. Just enjoy yourself. You're a funny guy. You're very inspirational to all of us. So we love you, man. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can work together again.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Thank you so much. Yes.
All right.
And guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this show, I'm sure you did. Let your friends know. Also, remember, every night at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, we have the Live with Naz show, and we are in episode 241 tonight. Now, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm going to be in Nashville with Michael W. Smith. So there won't be a show. Maybe my son, John, will do the Next Generation Live with Naz one of those nights. But normally, every weeknight at 7:30 p.m. at Comedian Nazareth on Facebook, laugh with us for an hour, and then we pray for you and we encourage you in that hour. So, but before that 7:30 hour at 3:30 Eastern time, you can go to Julie's and Derrick's.
It's 321 because Down syndrome is a third number 21 chromosome. So that's how you can know the start time is 321. And if you go to
PM Eastern time.
And if you go to my321smile.com.
My321smile.com. And
that's an easy way to get, that'll go right to Julie's Cool Shirts Facebook page.
I know some of my fans are already writing these things in the comments. I know they.
Oh, I didn't even think to look at the comments. I'll go back and look.
They already write them. There's comments.
Awesome.
If they have any questions,
please and send me any messages or whatever. I'd love to.
Love you, man. Thank you so much.
Love you too, brother.
Thank you.
This was awesome. Thank you. Love you, man.
You too.